Okay, so now moving on to the annual Taxpayer Bill of Rights meeting. So in 2017, so remember I told you that I got my legislators involved at the end of 2016, and the Franchise Tax Board magically located the money. So the harassment stopped right at the very end of 2016. So in the beginning of 2017, I went on the offensive, and I started calling around trying to find a lawyer. And I contacted a bunch of tax groups and said, hey, do you have lawyers that you can recommend? This is a situation. And I contacted a lobbyist group, and I talked to a lobbyist who was super nice. And he said, before you lay out money for an attorney, why don't you submit to the annual Taxpayer Bill of Rights meeting? Like, every Californian has the right to request changes in policy. So if what you're trying to do is get the policy of withholding payments changed, just submit a request. So I did submit a request, and they basically told me that Susan Maples, the taxpayer advocate at the time, basically was like, how did you find out about this? And well, let me tell you why you can't really submit. So I told her who had given me the information, and that I was pretty sure that I could submit and that I wanted it addressed. I talked to Susan Maples at length, and she was very nice, very professional. She's a sharp cookie. I genuinely liked her. I really did. And I realized that to get to the top of the career ladder, you have to have sociopathic tendencies. So maybe she's just a sociopath and a good actress, but she seemed like she genuinely cared about the taxpayer and genuinely wanted to do the right thing. So I submitted my request, and she had verbally told me that she knew the withholding practice was unlawful, because I had cited the tax codes that it was in violation of. And she had said that she would get that changed. So I was kind of expecting that when I got my response back. And the response that I got back was they addressed a different question altogether. They pretended as if I had asked a different question and gave me a different response. So that's collusion to cover up racketeering right there. And I was pretty surprised that she did that, but I guess I shouldn't be. As time went on, Susan Maples did more and more stuff to cover up FTB's criminal activity. For example, I had sent in an abatement request for my, in 2014, I had sent in an abatement request for my 2011 tax year. So the FTB never responded to my abatement request, and when I had called to follow up on it, the Franchise Tax Board had told me that, well, if they don't respond to you within 6 months, you're out of luck. You can't do anything about it. That representative lied to me, because if the Franchise Tax Board doesn't respond within 6 months, you have the right to file an appeal. At the time, it was Board of Equalization. Now it's the Office of Tax Appeals. And so anyway, when later on down the road, I had said I was going to submit a request for a refund for the 2013 and 2014 penalties. And the woman that I talked to at Franchise Tax Board was super nice, and she said she would look into reopening the 2011 one, since I had been unfairly given false information about my right to appeal to a higher court. So she did succeed in reopening my request, and I got a turn down. So I never made a request for 2013 or 2014, just 2011. And I got a letter in the mail from the Franchise Tax Board turning down 2011, 2013, and 2014. Now, I hadn't applied for 2013 and 2014 yet. And when I brought that up to Susan Maples, she said that I was turned down because I told GovOps, which is the oversight agency for Franchise Tax Board, that I intended to file an appeal for 2013 and 2014. And that as far as Franchise Tax Board is concerned, they have loose guidelines on what qualifies as a request. And thanks to their loose guidelines, my making a one-sentence comment to a different agency altogether was an official request. So I was turned down for not providing documentation, even though I never even had the chance to provide documentation. I was getting it together. And then when I tried to dispute it, Susan Maples was like, nope, you're gonna have to file with the Board of Equalization because the Franchise Tax Board did the lawful thing by turning you down. It was perfectly right to turn you down for years you'd never applied for. And she did a bunch of other stuff. And I feel bad for her because her job is to whitewash FTB's criminal activity. And that's a pretty crappy job, if you ask me. Now, the taxpayers' rights advocate is supposed to protect taxpayers, but the advocate is employed by the agency that they're trying to protect taxpayers from. So just like the student attorneys deliberately sabotage your case to make sure you lose in your Office of Tax Appeals hearing, so the taxpayers' rights advocate deliberately covers up the criminal activity, because she's not going to go against her employer. She's not going to get herself fired.